beloved, the gold is tried in the fire, and the finest wheat is threshed. Why does the Lord place his chosen ones amidst the thorns of strife, the bitterness of affliction? It is not without divine purpose. The diamond is found deep in the earth. Pressed beneath weight untold, so too are the elect refined beneath the burdens of adversity. Did Joseph not suffer at the hands of his own brethren? Did David not flee from the spears of his own king? The chosen are not born into ease but into hardship, that they may learn strength in sorrow, patience in persecution, grace amid cruelty. The vessel must be broken before it can be filled. Oh, do not despise your trial. Your pain is not punishment but preparation. The arrows of malice sharpen your spirit, the wounds of the wicked drive you to God's embrace. Fear not, for the Lord is near. Take heart, for your affliction is but the chisel of heaven, carving you into the likeness of Christ. The trials of life are not mere accidents, they are the forge in which the chosen ones are refined. Fire does not destroy gold, it purifies it, burning away the dross, leaving only that which is precious. So it is with those whom God has set apart. They are cast into adversity, pressed on every side, not to be broken but to be strengthened, not to be abandoned but to be perfected. The hand of the Lord does not shield them from affliction but ordains it, for without trial there is no true refinement. Consider the purpose of the furnace. The raw ore, fresh from the depths of the earth, is dark and rough, bearing little resemblance to the gleaming gold it is meant to become. It must pass through intense heat, melting under the flames, separating what is worthless from what is pure. The goldsmith watches closely, never allowing the fire to consume the metal but only to cleanse it. He does not remove it until its surface reflects his own face. So it is with the chosen ones. They are placed in the midst of trials, surrounded by affliction, because God is shaping them into his likeness. Many ask why they are born into households filled with strife, why their closest can become their greatest tormentors. But is it not the way of the Lord to bring light out of darkness, strength out of weakness? The world loves its own, but those whom God calls are set apart. They do not belong to the corruption around them, and thus they are resisted. Their trials begin early, their burdens placed upon them before they even understand their purpose. The very home that should be a refuge often becomes a battlefield, yet even in this, there is divine wisdom at work. Softness does not forge strength. A life free of hardship produces frailty of soul, an ease that weakens rather than fortifies. The mighty oak does not grow strong in sheltered places but in open fields where the winds beat against it, forcing its roots deep into the earth. Without the storm, it would remain shallow and weak, easily toppled when greater tempests arise. The chosen ones are not permitted such fragility. From the very beginning they are set in the midst of opposition, so that their roots may grow deep, their spirits may become unshakable. Affliction teaches what comfort never can. Those who know only ease remain untested, unproven, lacking the depth that suffering bestows. But those who pass through fire emerge with wisdom that cannot be bought, endurance that cannot be imitated. They learn patience in the midst of cruelty, faith in the midst of betrayal. They discover that man cannot be their refuge, that only in God is their true security. The harshness of their surroundings drives them into the secret place of the Most High, where the world cannot reach them, where peace is found in the midst of the storm. Pain, though grievous, is a masterful teacher. It strips away illusion, revealing the true nature of those around us and of ourselves. It humbles the heart, exposing pride, crushing self-reliance, making way for the full dependence on God. Without suffering, the chosen ones might mistake the love of the world for something enduring, might build their hopes upon unstable ground. But affliction clears the vision, revealing that all else fades except that which is rooted in the eternal. There is no glory without suffering, no crown without a cross. Even Christ himself was not spared the furnace. He was despised, rejected, wounded by those he came to save. If the Son of God was perfected through suffering, can his followers expect any less? The servant is not greater than his master. Those marked by God will walk the same path, misunderstood, scorned, afflicted. But in this they are being purified, strengthened, prepared for a glory that far surpasses the weight of their present trials. The trials of the chosen ones are not new, nor are they without precedent. From the earliest days, those whom God set apart have walked this path of rejection, suffering at the hands of those closest to them. The pages of Scripture are filled with stories of those who, though called by God, faced opposition from their own families and brethren. Their lives bear witness to the truth that divine selection does not bring immediate comfort but rather invites affliction, shaping them for purposes beyond their understanding. Joseph was chosen, marked by the favor of God, given dreams of rulership and authority. Yet, his first taste of suffering did not come from strangers but from his own brothers. Their jealousy burned against him, their resentment turned to hatred, and in their cruelty they conspired against him. They stripped him of his robe, cast him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. The hands that should have embraced him in love were the very ones that cast him away. Yet, even in betrayal, the sovereign hand of God was at work. What they meant for evil, God meant for good. Joseph's trials, though bitter, were the very means by which he was prepared for his destiny. Without the rejection of his brothers, there would have been no rise to power, no saving of nations, no fulfillment of the dreams God had given him. David, the man after God's own heart, was no stranger to this same affliction. Anointed as king in his youth, chosen by the Lord to lead his people, David did not ascend to the throne in peace. His path was one of conflict, of suffering, of being pursued by those who should have protected him. Saul, the king of Israel, should have been his mentor, his guide, yet instead he became his enemy. He cast spears at him, sought his life, forced him into exile. David wandered the wilderness, hunted like a criminal, though he had done no wrong. The anointing upon him did not shield him from trouble, it invited it. Yet, through the trials, his character was shaped, his dependence on God deepened, his heart was refined in the fires of affliction. Moses, the deliverer of Israel, was raised in the palace of Pharaoh, yet his calling separated him from the comforts of his upbringing. When he took a stand for his people, he was cast out, rejected, and sent into the wilderness. The people he sought to deliver did not recognize him. They questioned his authority, doubted his leadership, murmured against him. The very ones he had come to rescue became his greatest burden, yet through it all, he remained steadfast in his calling. The opposition he faced was not a sign of failure but a mark of his divine appointment. The pattern continues throughout Scripture. Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, was rejected by his own people, cast into a pit for speaking the truth. Elijah, the bold prophet of God, stood alone against the forces of idolatry, pursued and hunted for his unwavering faith. Even Christ himself, the Son of God, was not exempt from this suffering. His own people received him not. His own brethren doubted him. The leaders of his nation conspired against him. He was betrayed by one of his closest disciples, denied by another, abandoned in his greatest hour of need. The cross was not placed upon his shoulders by strangers alone, but by those who should have honored him. This pattern is not an accident. It is the way of those who are chosen. The world resists them, the enemy attacks them, and often their greatest trials come from within their own households. The chosen ones do not blend in with their surroundings, for they carry a different spirit, a divine calling that sets them apart. Their light exposes darkness, their presence stirs opposition, their very existence disrupts the plans of the enemy. They are misunderstood, despised, cast aside, yet through it all, they are being prepared for something far greater than they can see. Their suffering is not without purpose. It is a refining fire, a divine preparation, a training ground for the calling upon their lives. The stories of Joseph, David, Moses, and even Christ himself bear witness to this truth. The rejection, the betrayal, the hardship, these are not signs of abandonment but of divine selection. The chosen ones walk a road well trodden, following in the footsteps of those who came before them, bearing the marks of their calling in the trials they endure. Strength is not born in comfort, nor is endurance forged in ease. The chosen ones are not set apart for a life of softness, but for a path that demands resilience, perseverance, and unshakable faith. Their trials are not random, nor are they without purpose. Every hardship, every sorrow, every battle they face is a tool in the hands of the divine, shaping them into vessels of strength. Without opposition, there is no need for endurance. Without suffering, there is no depth of character. Without resistance, there is no true growth. The chosen ones are thrust into adversity so that they may emerge stronger than the fire that sought to consume them. The oak tree grows tall and mighty not because it is sheltered, but because it is exposed to the elements. The winds beat against it, the storms rage around it, yet instead of breaking, it sinks its roots deeper into the earth, drawing strength from beneath. In the same way, the chosen ones are placed in the midst of trials, not to be destroyed, but to grow roots so deep that no storm can uproot them. If life were free of hardship, there would be no need for strength. It is the very presence of opposition that makes resilience necessary. The enemy does not waste his efforts on those who pose no threat. He strikes hardest against those whom God has called, for he knows that their endurance will lead to victory. The hardships they endure are evidence of the calling upon their lives. The very fact that they suffer is a sign that they are marked for something greater. The weight they bear is not in vain. It is in the pressing that the oil flows, in the crushing that the fragrance is released. Without trials there is no testimony. Without pain there is no power. Many wonder why their suffering seems unending, why they are met with resistance at every turn, why those around them seem to walk an easier road. But the path of the chosen is not one of ease. It is a road of discipline, of refinement, of preparation. The weight of the calling requires strength, and that strength is built in the furnace of affliction. Those who are called to endure much are being prepared to accomplish much. The trials are not obstacles but stepping stones, each one building a foundation of perseverance that will sustain them when greater battles arise. Endurance is not a passive quality. It is an active resistance to the forces that seek to break the spirit. It is the choice to keep moving forward when the weight of suffering presses down. It is the decision to trust when everything seems uncertain, to hold on to faith when circumstances offer no reason for hope. The chosen ones are trained in this endurance, for they will need it to fulfill their calling. They are made strong in the fire, so that when the time comes to stand, they will not falter. Consider the warrior in battle. He does not gain strength by sitting idly, but by training under pressure, by facing resistance, by learning to withstand pain. He does not emerge from the fight unscarred, but those scars are proof of his endurance, marks of the battles he has overcome. The chosen ones are warriors of the Spirit, trained not in ease, but in struggle. Their scars are not signs of defeat, but of battles won. Each trial they face is a lesson, each hardship a tool, each wound a mark of their growing strength. The chosen ones do not crumble under adversity. They rise. They do not surrender to suffering. They endure. They do not allow the weight of hardship to crush them. They learn to carry it with grace. This strength is not of their own making, but of divine origin. It is not built upon their own willpower, but upon the foundation of faith. They endure not because they are naturally strong, but because they are strengthened by the one who has called them. The trials do not break them, they build them. The hardships do not weaken them, they forge them into what they were always meant to be. Pain is not a sign of divine displeasure, nor is suffering evidence of abandonment. The chosen ones are not afflicted because they are forgotten, but because they are being prepared for something greater than they can yet understand. The trials they face are not meaningless, they are the chisel in the hand of the master sculptor, shaping them into vessels fit for his purpose. Those whom God calls, he first prepares, and that preparation is rarely gentle. The weight of their destiny requires a strength that cannot be gained through ease. They are not punished, they are being fashioned, refined, and strengthened for the work ahead. The path of the chosen is marked by hardship because their purpose demands endurance. A vessel that will hold great treasure must be tested to ensure it can bear the weight. The greater the calling, the greater the preparation. Weakness is stripped away through suffering, self-reliance is broken, and faith is forged in the fire of affliction. The trials they endure are not for destruction but for transformation. Every difficulty, every wound, every betrayal is allowed for the sake of what is being built within them. Their suffering is not wasted, it is the very thing that will qualify them for the work they are meant to do. It is in the breaking that true strength is revealed. The chosen ones are often brought low before they are lifted up, emptied before they are filled. The pride of self-sufficiency must be shattered so that they may rely fully on the strength of God. The trials they endure teach them that their own strength is not enough, that wisdom alone will not sustain them, that human support is unreliable. In the wilderness of suffering, they learn dependence not on themselves, not on the world, but on the one who called them. The burden they carry is not a curse, it is a preparation. The weight of suffering teaches them to walk with endurance, to stand firm when others would fall, to press on when all seems lost. It is in these moments of hardship that their character is refined. Compassion is born out of sorrow, wisdom out of wounds, perseverance out of pain. They are being shaped not only for their own sake but for the sake of those they will one day lead, strengthen, and encourage. Without suffering, they could not understand the suffering of others. Without trials, they would lack the wisdom to guide those who come after them. There is no shortcut to true preparation. The chosen ones must walk through the fire, for it is only in the fire that impurities are burned away. Those who are called to great things must first be proven worthy of the call. Their trials are not punishment but qualification. The suffering they endure now is the foundation upon which their purpose will stand. Each hardship, each moment of despair, each season of pain is a piece of the greater work being done within them. Their path is not easy, nor was it meant to be. Comfort does not produce strength, nor does ease produce endurance. The chosen ones are not called to ordinary lives, and thus they do not endure ordinary trials. The weight of their suffering is equal to the weight of their calling. They are being prepared not for a life of ease, but for a destiny that requires unwavering faith, relentless perseverance, and unshakable strength. What they endure now is not without meaning. It is the very thing that is molding them into who they were always meant to be. The vessel must be broken before it can be filled. The chosen ones are not born into comfort but into struggle, for their very calling requires a breaking that prepares them for a greater purpose. The breaking is painful, yet it is necessary. A vessel that has never been shattered cannot be reshaped, and a heart that has never been wounded cannot be truly healed. Those who are set apart must first be emptied of themselves, so that they may be filled with something greater. The trials they face are not cruel accidents but divine processes, stripping away what is unnecessary, refining what is impure, and molding them into what they were always meant to be. A vessel in its natural state is rough and unformed. It must be placed upon the wheel, shaped by the hands of the potter, pressed, stretched, and molded. Yet, even once shaped, it is not yet ready. It must pass through the fire, hardened and strengthened by the flames, tested so that it may hold what it was created to contain. The chosen ones are much the same. Their early years may be filled with rejection, betrayal, and suffering, yet these are not signs of divine neglect. They are evidence of divine preparation. Without the breaking, they would remain unfit for the purpose set before them. Many resist the breaking, believing that suffering is a sign of failure, that hardship is an indication they have been forgotten. But the greatest vessels of God have always been those who have suffered most. The breaking is not a sign of rejection, it is the proof of selection. Those whom God chooses He first prepares, and preparation is never gentle. The rough edges must be smoothed, the weaknesses exposed, the heart purified. This process is painful, yet it is necessary, for without it, the chosen ones would never reach their full potential. There is no true strength without first being made weak. There is no true wisdom without first being made to walk in uncertainty. There is no true reliance on God without first being stripped of all self-reliance. The breaking forces the chosen ones to see their own insufficiency, to recognize that their strength alone is not enough, that their wisdom alone will fail them. It is in this place of brokenness that they learn to depend on something greater than themselves. They are emptied but not abandoned. They are shattered but not destroyed. The breaking is not the end, it is the beginning of transformation. When a vessel is broken and repaired, it is stronger at the place of its fracture. The cracks, once healed, do not weaken it, they reinforce it. So it is with those who have been broken and restored by God. Their wounds do not make them weaker, they make them stronger. The chosen ones may walk through seasons of sorrow, seasons of confusion, seasons where everything they trusted is stripped away. Yet, through it all, they are being remade. They do not emerge from the fire as they once were, they come forth as something greater, something more refined, something prepared for the weight of their calling. The world values strength that has never been tested, but God values the strength that has been refined in affliction. A vessel that has never been broken may appear whole, but it has never been tested. It has never had to prove its endurance, its ability to hold what has been poured into it. The chosen ones are tested because they are meant to carry something precious. They are broken so that they may be remade into something unshakable. The suffering they endure is not without meaning. It is the fire that strengthens, the pressure that refines, the breaking that prepares them to be filled. Rejection is the portion of the chosen ones, not because they are unworthy, but because they are set apart. From the moment of their birth, they carry something different, something the world does not understand. Their presence unsettles those around them, for they walk in a light that exposes darkness, and their spirit carries a calling that others cannot comprehend. They are misunderstood, cast aside, and often despised, not because of any fault of their own, but because of the purpose they carry. The very ones who should nurture them often become their greatest source of pain, yet even this rejection is part of their divine preparation. From the beginning, the pattern has been the same. Joseph was rejected by his brothers, though he had done nothing to harm them. David was despised by his own family, overlooked even when the prophet came to anoint a king. Moses was rejected by his people when he first sought to help them. Even Christ himself, the Son of God, was rejected by his own. This rejection is not new, nor is it without purpose. It is the mark of those whom God has chosen, the evidence that they do not belong to the world around them. The chosen ones do not fit in, and the world senses it. Rejection wounds deeply, for it comes from those who should love the most. A stranger's disapproval may sting, but a parent's rejection, a sibling's betrayal, or a friend's abandonment cuts to the soul. The chosen ones are often born into families that do not recognize their worth, into environments that do not nurture their calling. They are overlooked, dismissed, criticized, and sometimes even hated. Their dreams are ridiculed, their gifts unappreciated, their purpose ignored. They are made to feel as though they are outcasts in their own homes, as though they do not belong. Yet this very rejection is part of their refining. The chosen ones are not called to a life of comfort, but to a path of transformation. Their rejection isolates them, but in that isolation they are drawn closer to God. The love they do not receive from men, they learn to seek from Him. The affirmation that is withheld from them in their homes, they find in His presence. Their suffering teaches them dependence, their loneliness drives them to the One who never forsakes. The pain they endure is not wasted, for it prepares them to be the very thing they were always meant to be. Rejection does not break the chosen ones, it shapes them. It teaches them resilience, strengthens their spirit, and deepens their faith. Those who are constantly accepted, constantly affirmed by the world, have no need to seek something greater. But those who have been cast aside, those who have been made to feel unwanted, they learn to find their identity not in the approval of man, but in the truth of their calling. They are not what the world calls them. They are not defined by the opinions of those who rejected them. They are chosen, set apart, marked by something far beyond human recognition. The pain of rejection does not mean they are forgotten. It is a sign that they are different, that they do not belong to the systems that surround them. The world rejects what it does not understand, and those who carry a divine purpose will always be misunderstood. Their suffering is not in vain, for it prepares them for the very thing they were created to do. They walk a lonely road, but it is a road that leads to something greater. Their wounds will one day be the very thing that gives them strength, their isolation the very thing that draws them into the presence of God. They are not abandoned, they are being set apart. Suffering refines the chosen ones, for they are not meant to live as others do. They are called to something higher, something weighty, something that demands preparation beyond what the ordinary soul must endure. The fires they walk through are not accidents, nor are they without purpose. They are the crucible in which all that is weak is burned away, leaving only what is strong, only what can endure. Those who are chosen are not given an easy path, for ease does not produce resilience, and comfort does not create depth. Instead, they are tested, their hearts stretched, their spirits pressed, until all that remains is unshakable. It is easy to question why suffering is their portion, why their lives seem filled with battles while others move through life untouched. The answer lies in the weight of their calling. Those who will carry great responsibility must first be prepared to bear it. A foundation that is not tested cannot hold a mighty structure. A warrior who has never seen battle cannot lead others into victory. The suffering of the chosen ones is not random, it is a divine strategy, a process by which they are made fit for the destiny set before them. Without trials, they would not have the strength to endure the journey ahead. The world does not understand this process. It looks upon suffering and sees only hardship, but the chosen ones are taught to see differently. Their pain is not meaningless, it is purposeful. Every affliction is a tool in the hands of the divine, cutting away what is unnecessary, shaping them into vessels capable of carrying what they were born to hold. If they were allowed to remain untested, they would never become what they were meant to be. The trials are necessary not because they are weak, but because they are being made strong. Even in suffering, there is a choice. Some allow the fire to consume them, while others let it refine them. The chosen ones must decide whether they will let their trials make them bitter, or whether they will allow them to make them better. They must choose whether they will give in to despair or whether they will let their suffering birth wisdom, endurance, and unshakable faith. Those who rise from their affliction with renewed purpose are the ones who have understood the process, who have embraced the refinement rather than resisted it. The path of suffering is a lonely one. Few will understand the weight the chosen ones carry, for their struggles are not like those of others. They may look around and wonder why they are pressed on every side, why they face rejection, betrayal, loss, and hardship in ways that others do not. But the weight of their suffering is a reflection of the magnitude of their calling. The greater the destiny, the greater the preparation. They must be tested in ways that others are not, because they are called to walk in ways that others cannot. Endurance is not built in moments of ease, nor is wisdom gained without struggle. The chosen ones are made to endure, to persevere, to walk through fire without being consumed. Their wounds, their scars, their battles are not signs of defeat, they are evidence of their refinement. Every struggle they have faced, every moment of pain, every season of suffering has been part of a greater plan, a divine preparation for what is to come. They may not understand it in the moment, but every hardship has been necessary, every trial has shaped them, every fire has made them into what they were always meant to be. The chosen ones often walk a road that is unfamiliar and difficult, marked by obstacles that others do not face. They are not immune to pain, nor are they shielded from the brokenness of the world. In fact, they are often thrust into the very heart of it, not because they have done anything wrong, but because they have been selected for a higher purpose. Their path is not one of ease, for ease does not prepare them for the weight they must bear. Every hardship they face, every sorrow they endure, is part of a divine plan to shape them into vessels capable of carrying the weight of their calling. It is in the moments of greatest hardship that the chosen ones are tested most. Their strength is measured not by the ease of their circumstances, but by their ability to stand in the face of adversity. The trials they face are not meant to break them, but to refine them. They are not forsaken in their struggles, they are being prepared for something far beyond what they can see in the present. The world may look at them and see only brokenness, but God sees potential in the very things that seem to destroy them. What the world considers to be failures, God uses as stepping stones. The setbacks, the disappointments, the moments of feeling lost, these are not roadblocks but part of the journey that leads to greater things. The chosen ones do not rise above their struggles by avoiding them, they rise by walking through them. It is in the struggle that their faith is tested, their character is refined, and their strength is forged. Every battle they face, whether it is external or internal, is a part of their preparation for the greater work they are called to. The road of the chosen ones is often lonely, for they are not called to walk in the ways of the world. They are set apart, and this setting apart brings with it a certain level of isolation. They may find themselves rejected by those who should have been their support, misunderstood by those who should have known them best. Yet this isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. In their solitude they learn to rely not on the approval of others, but on the assurance that God is with them. It is in this space that they find their identity, not in the acceptance of those around them, but in the calling placed upon their lives. While others may move through life with relative ease, the chosen ones are forged in the fire. The world does not understand the depth of their struggle because it does not see the depth of their purpose. But the chosen ones are not called to the same life as everyone else. Their trials are not signs of weakness but of strength. Their challenges are not indications that they have been forgotten but evidence that they are being prepared for something greater. They may feel the weight of their calling at times, as though it is more than they can bear. They may be tempted to give up, to walk away from the path set before them. Yet, it is in these moments that their endurance is built, their faith deepened, and their character strengthened. Every time they choose to rise, even when they feel like falling, they are being transformed. Every tear shed, every moment of despair, every challenge faced is a part of the process that shapes them into who they are meant to be. The chosen ones are not called to a life of comfort, for their calling is not to a life of ease. They are called to a life that requires them to endure, to persevere, and to stand firm in the face of trials. But in this journey they are not alone. God walks with them, strengthening them, guiding them, and preparing them for what is to come. Their suffering is not without purpose. It is the very thing that will equip them to fulfill their destiny. They may not understand it now, but every challenge, every hardship, every moment of pain is part of the divine preparation for the greater work ahead.